What's going on? How could I help?
So basically we did talk before, but a lot has changed since then. The other day, so my diagnostic was at 151. My biggest struggle was also always RC, because English is my second language. It's just harder for me. But the other day I hit my first 170, which is really exciting. But I've been going downhill since. Like yesterday, I got a 162. After getting a 170, I got a 162, and that's when I'm like really concerned. I got thrown like a weird logic game in there that had patterns, but I'm just afraid because my test is in July, and I don't know if I should be taking practice tests every other day or if I should like go back and like look at foundation skills and stuff.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And it's definitely discouraging to get those score drops so close to the exam.
Yeah.
First off, I want you to know that you shouldn't place too much stock in any one particular exam result. There's fluctuations are totally normal. Having off days is totally normal, especially if there's a weird curveball game in a particular exam. What's much more indicative of where you stand is the average of the most recent 5 exams you've taken over a relatively short period. So next week you might go up. You might even go above your average. And then there's things like sleep and diet and all the other stuff that can have an impact. So just consider all of that as well. I wouldn't stop doing full-length exams with the exam less than a month away. So keep those up. But if you notice any weak areas that you may want to drill, then do that.
Okay. I'm kind of like debating if I should just take like August and October instead of July and August. What do you think about that? Do you think that like for early admission, especially, I really want to do early admission to, hopefully Columbia, if my scores are up to par. Do you think that I could get there by July, August, or should I wait?
It's impossible to say whether you could get there, but I can say that applying early matters much less than it used to. And taking August and October is totally fine. You take those exams, you apply, you're still pretty early in the cycle, actually. Even November would be okay. And obviously that's beyond any cutoff for early binding decision and programs of that nature. But in general, rolling means that, in general, the process is rolling, and applying early doesn't actually matter that much, even despite that. So it sounds like you'll feel more comfortable going for August and October. So that's what I would do if that's the case.
Okay. For reading comp, I'm just like, since my diagnostic, my reading comp just hasn't improved. It's the other sections that are like the reason for my improvement of score. I get -10 to -7 on reading comp. I read like the LSAT trainer, and I did a little bit of blueprint and a little bit of power score, but I just really feel like there's not a strategy. I feel like it's just reading it and figuring it out. Do you have anything that you recommend for like specifically question types for reading comp that will help me?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Reading comp is definitely harder to improve on than the other sections. And a lot of the resources out there do tend to overcomplicate it with strategies that don't really work in practice under timed conditions. As far as question type strategies, you mean within the passage, like you have the occasional weird parallel reasoning in reading comp within that, or passages?
More like, what could you infer that the author would agree with, things like that, like inference questions for reading comp?
It really just comes down to being able to find the specific lines supporting a given answer choice, and then also process of elimination. With reading comp, there is less susceptible to strategies than anything else, and it's hard to improve on. But if you can remove some of the complication and simply figure out how to extract the main idea from a passage, and then have a sense of where to find things when you need them, when you're going back to the passage, like having a general roadmap of it in your head, that could be useful.
Okay, so you're saying the best strategy is just to like have a roadmap to see where you can refer back to. So you think in the first pass through of reading the passage, I should do the roadmap, and then once I go to the questions, then I should like in detail read the passage more?
I say roadmap in terms of like having a mental framework of where things are in the passage. Like, this is not something to write down. This isn't really anything formal in nature. Okay. What I mean simply is, okay, towards the beginning, they summarize everything, or at the end of paragraph 1, they express the main idea. Then they have evidence for viewpoint 1 and focus there. Then they have viewpoint 2 and they focus there. And that's it. And then, as you said, yes, when you're solving detail-oriented questions, then go back to the passage to find where they're referencing that and read it more in depth.
Okay. And then my last question, I guess, is for LR, I'm getting average like -1 to -4 now. And I know like I'm pre-phrasing without even thinking. It's like very natural to me. It just clicked, but I don't identify the flaw. I just know there is the flaw, and like I kind of know what's going on, and I just answer it. Would you think that it's necessary for me to like improve on it, to go back and kind of like identify the flaw and then like kind of just like write it out, like kind of the clear she has? Or do you think that it's fine for me to continue like this?
I think it's important to be able to pre-phrase the flaw in the stimulus. The answer choices only make sense in the context of the stimulus, and since you're looking to identify a flaw, you're attempting to articulate it. There's no ambiguity around it. Like the flaw is the flaw. They're not opening the door to new information where it could be a variety of things. So if it requires slowing down, especially if you're giving yourself more time to study for this, to more deeply understand a stimulus, an argument, then it's worth doing that.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any like other general tips that you give people like in my situation kind of, or?
Well, I have so much out there that's general already. What's coming to mind for me in your situation is that it sounds like you've just decided to give yourself an additional month to study. And so if that is what you're doing, then try to process that and reduce your stress a little bit around this, because it doesn't have the same urgency anymore. If you're going, instead of July 12th or 13th, you're doing August 29th, that's another 6 weeks. And then you have October after that. So
if I am going to go with July though, how would you recommend that I go about the next like 3.5 weeks? Like I was going to take a practice test every other day from now and review the answers on the days I don't. Do you think that's a good plan?
I think that's fine, because the flex exams are shorter. They're only 3 sections. I actually think it's okay to do them every other day, as long as you're giving yourself sufficient time to review in detail. But doing only 2 flex exams a week or 3 flex exams per week rather than 3.5 per week and giving yourself a day off, that could be nice too. And I would probably recommend that. I think that extra exam or half an exam isn't going to do a whole lot for you. And it's too easy to burn out if you're hitting it that hard for the next several weeks or next couple of weeks at least. And then you're going to do the same thing for August anyway, right? So it's just going to continue. So try not to overwhelm yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You've got at least another 2 months of this, so end of June to end of August. So feel okay slowing down. And then even if you don't do July, even if July doesn't work for you, you still got August. If August doesn't work for you, you have October, and they're not averaging multiple scores. So no one particular exam is going to make or break you here.
Do you think it's okay for me to take 3 tests if I have to, like July, August, and October, or is 3 pushing it?
Have you taken it before?
No.
I'm hesitant to say yes on this, because the part of the retake, well, actually the retake limits will apply to July. They won't apply to July, but they could apply to August and October. So like,
what does that mean? The retake limits in terms of like how many tests you can take, or how many tests look bad?
How many tests you can take. So LSAC actually has a formal policy around this where they say 3 times in one calendar, not in one calendar year, 3 times in one testing cycle. Testing cycles run from June to May. So normally that would mean that July, August, October was it. But because of flex, the May, June, and July flex exams don't count towards retake limits. Whether future flex exams will or not is an open question. But regardless, August and October could be 2 out of your 3 for that cycle. So I'm hesitant to say do all 3. Plus, adcoms don't like to see you taking several in a row, because then it looks like you're not really giving due consideration to each one, that you're doing it properly. So I would probably suggest doing only 2 out of those 3. But listen, you know what? If at the end of the day, you do July, you think it's going to go well, it doesn't, August, something happens, you get sick the day before, then you do October, that's fine. But if you know the day before that you just aren't going to make it what you want it to be, I wouldn't do it, since you do have August and October going forward.
So you're saying in July, if I don't feel like I'm 100% confident, I shouldn't do it. The day before, like I can withdraw, I just won't get my money back, but it won't show up anywhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you are going to withdraw from the July LSAT flex, I would be ready to do that, like not at like 11:59 p.m., but I would do it a little bit
Yeah.
earlier, in part because
Yeah.
with it being flex, it might be tough to figure out how to do it. And you want to be able to call LSAC during business hours if necessary to at least register that you're trying to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course. I'm glad we were able to connect. Keep in touch and let me know if you need anything going forward.
Of course. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.